This film tells the story of humanity's final effort to survive and defend Earth. The story begins by explaining two important terms. First, kaiju, a Japanese word that means giant, monstrous creatures. Second, Jäger, a German word that means hunter. The disaster begins when Earth is attacked by aliens from another dimension. These creatures do not come from outer space, but through an interdimensional portal located deep in the Pacific Ocean, precisely in the gap between two tectonic plates. The first kaiju appears in San Francisco Bay. At that time, humanity needs 6 days to bring it down, using tanks, jets, and missiles. The victory comes at a terrible cost. 3 cities are destroyed, and tens of thousands of lives are lost. 6 months later, a second attack strikes Manila, followed by a third in Cabo. The attacks continue, and humanity realizes this will not stop. The world unites, setting aside national rivalries, and decides to create its own monsters to fight the kaiju. This project is called the Jäger program, giant robots originally designed to be controlled by a single pilot. However, the neural strain of connecting to a Jäger proves too much for one person. As a result, a 2-pilot system is introduced, with each pilot controlling one side of the robot through a shared mental connection known as the drift. With Jägers, humanity begins to push back the kaiju, and the pilots become global celebrities. In 2020, the 7th year of the Kaiju War, alarms sound, signaling the arrival of a Category 3 kaiju, the largest seen at that time. 2 brothers, Riley Beckett and his older brother Yancey Beckett, wake up and prepare to pilot a Jäger called Gypsy Danger. They are not athletes or geniuses, but they share a powerful mental bond. After putting on their drive suits and entering the con pod, the head of the robot is attached to Gypsy Danger's body. They initiate the drift, connecting their past memories to synchronize their movements. Gypsy Danger is deployed into a violent ocean storm to stop a kaiju targeting a fishing boat. Riley and Yancey disobey orders to hold the coastline in order to save the ship. They manage to strike the kaiju with a plasma cannon and believe it is dead. However, the creature suddenly rises again in a furious attack, damaging Gypsy Danger, tearing off one of its arms, ripping open its armor, and pulling Yancey out, killing him. Traumatized, Riley is forced to control the Jäger alone, struggling to bring it back to the Alaskan coast. He finally exits the robot and collapses in front of 2 scavengers who witness the fallen Gypsy Danger. From inside the broken machine, Riley emerges, limping and barely able to stand.
5 years have passed since the destruction of Gypsy Danger. Marshall Stacker Pentecost receives reports from world leaders. They decide to shut down the Jäger program, believing it can no longer be relied upon. Instead, the world turns to a new project called the Wall of Life, a massive defensive wall built along the coastlines. Marshall Stacker Pentecost is ordered to move the remaining Jägers to the last operational base, Shatterdome, Hong Kong. World leaders agreed to continue funding the Jäger program for the next 8 months while the Costa Wall is still under construction. After that, the Jäger program will no longer receive financial support. Meanwhile, Riley Beckett is now working as a welder on the construction of the Wall of Life in Alaska. The wall is designed to stop kaiju from reaching the cities. During a break, Riley and his co-workers watch a news broadcast reporting the appearance of a Category 4 kaiju in Sydney. The kaiju breaks through the wall in less than 1 hour. The wall that was claimed to be impenetrable turns out to be extremely fragile. The workers around Riley begin to doubt that the wall they are building can actually stop a kaiju attack. Ironically, the kaiju in Sydney is eventually defeated by Jäger Striker Eureka, piloted by Herc Hansen and his son, Chuck Hansen. Shortly afterward, the sound of a helicopter landing is heard nearby. Marshall Stacker Pentecost arrives to meet Raleigh and asks him to return as a Jäger pilot. At first, Raleigh refuses. He is still haunted by the trauma of his past. However, Pentecost convinces him that the apocalypse is getting closer. He gives Raleigh a choice: die behind a wall or die fighting inside a Jäger. Upon arriving at Shatterdome, Hong Kong, Raleigh is welcomed by Mako Mori, a young, intelligent officer. He also meets the research team, Dr. Newton Geisler, a biologist, and Dr. Herman Gottlieb, a mathematician. Inside the massive hangar, Raleigh sees the Doomsday Clock, which tracks the increasing frequency of kaiju attacks. At this point, only 4 Jaegers remain operational. Crimson Typhoon from China, piloted by the 3 Weitang brothers. Cherno Alpha from Russia, one of the oldest and heaviest Jaegers, piloted by the Kaya-Danovsky husband and wife team. Striker Eureka from Australia, the fastest and most powerful Jaeger, piloted by Herc Hansen and his arrogant son, Chuck Hansen. And finally, Gypsy Danger, now repaired and ready to fight once again.
Marshall Stacker explains his plan. Jaeger Striker Eureka will carry a 1,200-kilogram nuclear bomb to the bottom of the ocean and detonate it directly inside the portal, permanently sealing the kaiju gateway. Raleigh hesitates, remembering that a similar attempt was made years ago and failed. Stacker reassures him, saying that this time they have a much stronger research team, and he is confident the portal can be destroyed. Dr. Herman Gottlieb explains that the frequency of kaiju appearances will continue to increase over the next 7 days. He predicts that 2 kaiju will soon appear at the same time, followed by 3 and then 4 kaiju in a single day, eventually leading to the end of the world. However, because the kaiju are emerging so rapidly, the portal connecting to the other dimension will remain open longer, creating a chance to send a nuclear explosion through it and close it permanently. Elsewhere, Mako Mori takes Raleigh Beckett to see Gypsy Danger, which has now been fully repaired. There, Raleigh reunites with his old friend Tendo Choi, who is working as a technician. Tendo then escorts Raleigh to his quarters. Along the way, Mako talks about her dream of becoming a Jaeger pilot. She achieved perfect scores in Jaeger simulation training, but she was never allowed to pilot by Marshall Stacker Pentecost. Stacker has already prepared several co-pilot candidates to accompany Raleigh in operating Gypsy Danger the following day. The next day, Mako meets with Stacker and asks to be assigned as the sole co-pilot of Gypsy Danger. However, Stacker firmly refuses. He believes Mako's emotions are still unstable, which would be extremely dangerous during a drift. In the dining hall, Herc Hansen invites Raleigh to eat with him. In front of them, Herc's son, Chuck Hansen, openly expresses his hatred toward Raleigh. He accuses Raleigh of being incompetent during the previous mission and blames him for the shutdown of the Jaeger program. Herc then tells Chuck to stop bringing up the past mission, reminding him that Raleigh possesses exceptional skill, as he once managed to land a Jaeger on the Alaskan mainland by himself. After the meal, Raleigh takes part in an audition to determine who is worthy of becoming his Jaeger co-pilot. He easily defeats all the candidates, but fails to achieve a compatible drift with any of them. Curious, Raleigh challenges Mako to a duel. Mako is able to match Raleigh's combat abilities. Everyone watching agrees that only Mako has the drift compatibility with Raleigh. Raleigh wants Mako to become his co-pilot. However, Stacker still refuses to allow it. After training, Raleigh approaches Mako and tells her that he wants her, and only her, as his partner. Mako desperately wants to become a Jaeger pilot, but she can do nothing against Stacker's decision. A short time later, Marshall Stacker Pentecost enters Mako's room. He finally allows Mako to try becoming the co-pilot of Gypsy Danger, partnering with Raleigh Beckett. When Raleigh enters the cockpit of Gypsy Danger, he is surprised to learn that his co-pilot is Mako Mori. The two prepared to undergo a neural test inside the cockpit. Raleigh and Mako begin to synchronize their minds through the drift. Meanwhile, Dr. Newton Geisler comes up with a reckless idea, performing a drift with a fragment of a kaiju brain. During the drift, he witnesses the kaiju's memories and discovers that kaiju are biological weapons sent by aliens to invade Earth. Newton explains that the kaiju do not attack at random. They are weapons controlled by alien beings attempting to conquer the planet. Category 1 through 4 kaiju are only the beginning. The aliens are preparing a final weapon to wipe out all life on Earth. Stacker orders Newton to perform another drift to gather more detailed information. However, Newton explains that he needs a kaiju brain that is still alive and fresh. Stacker then provides information about a man named Hannibal Chow, a black market dealer who trades in kaiju organs. Stacker orders Newton to find Hannibal Chow. Elsewhere, while still inside the drift, Raleigh and Mako begin to enter Mako's past. Mako's memories return to her childhood when she witnessed a kaiju attack that killed both of her parents. The overwhelming fear traps her deeper within those memories. Unaware of what she is doing, Mako accidentally activates Gypsy Danger's weapon systems. Everyone in the hangar panics. Raleigh struggles to calm Mako and pull her out of the memories. Eventually, Mako regains consciousness, but immediately collapses and loses consciousness on the spot. Elsewhere, after searching for some time, Dr. Newton Geisler finally finds Hannibal Chow inside the Kaiju Black Market headquarters, known as an underground version of Chinatown. Hannibal Chow welcomes Newton with confidence and proudly shows him his collection of illegally traded kaiju organs. At that place, Newton realizes that Hannibal possesses exactly what he needs to continue his research. Chuck Hansen approaches Mako Mori and Raleigh Beckett, who are waiting for Marshall Stacker. Chuck is furious at Mako because of her earlier actions, which he believes put everyone in the base at risk. He insults Mako with harsh words. Raleigh, unable to accept this, immediately punches Chuck and forces him to apologize. A fight breaks out between Raleigh and Chuck. Not long after, Herc Hansen, Chuck's father, arrives and breaks up the fight. Inside the office, Marshal Stacker Pentecost decides to remove Mako from duty as a co-pilot because of the incident. Mako looks devastated and leaves the room in sadness. Raleigh then realizes the real reason Stacker has always forbidden Mako from becoming a Jaeger pilot. Mako is Stacker's adopted daughter. Stacker saved her when she was a child and raised her himself. He knows that being a Jaeger pilot carries enormous risks, and he does not want to lose Mako. That night, Raleigh and Mako share dinner together. Raleigh tries to comfort her, explaining that a first drift is always difficult because two pilots must share memories and emotions. As they talk, an emergency alert suddenly sounds. The system detects kaiju emerging in the waters near Hong Kong. Not one, but two kaiju appear at the same time. Stacker immediately assigns roles. Crimson Typhoon and Cherno Alpha are ordered to engage the kaiju. Striker Eureka remains behind as backup, since it is the Jaeger designated to carry the nuclear bomb to the portal. Meanwhile, Raleigh and Mako are ordered to remain at the base. The three Jaegers move toward the Hong Kong coastline to intercept the kaiju before they reach land. Elsewhere, Dr. Newton Geisler tells Hannibal Chow that he is searching for a kaiju brain that is still alive. Hannibal, realizing that Newton has drifted with a kaiju, tells him that he has made a terrible mistake. Out at sea near Hong Kong, Crimson Typhoon battles one kaiju, while Cherno Alpha faces the other. Striker Eureka remains behind as backup. Inside Striker, Chuck Hansen grows impatient as he sees the other two Jaegers struggling. He and his father eventually decide to join the fight. Crimson Typhoon is ultimately destroyed. Cherno Alpha is struck by acid, then attacked by both kaiju at once, and finally destroyed. Striker Eureka enters the battlefield and manages to strike one of the kaiju. However, just as Striker prepares to launch its missiles, the kaiju behind it releases an electromagnetic shockwave that shuts down Striker Eureka's systems and causes a citywide blackout across Hong Kong. Striker becomes completely disabled, and panic spreads. Seeing the situation, Raleigh Beckett asks Stacker to deploy Gypsy Danger, since Gypsy is an older Jaeger that still uses analog systems powered by two nuclear reactors, making it immune to the shockwave. Elsewhere, Hannibal Chow orders Newton to take shelter in a bunker. Hannibal explains that Newton's reckless drift with a kaiju has angered the aliens. The drift is a two-way connection, and the current kaiju attack is believed to be targeting Newton specifically because of his actions. Meanwhile, Chuck Hansen, trapped inside the disabled Striker Eureka, desperately tries to distract the kaiju by firing flares. As the enraged kaiju prepares to attack, Gypsy Danger arrives. A fierce battle breaks out between Gypsy Danger and the kaiju, which even hurls Gypsy Danger into the city harbor. At the harbor, Gypsy Danger successfully disables one kaiju with multiple plasma cannon shots to ensure it is completely dead. Elsewhere in the city, the second kaiju tunnels toward the bunker, targeting Newton. The monster nearly captures him, but suddenly Gypsy Danger appears from behind, swinging a cargo ship and smashing the kaiju without mercy. The kaiju retreats, but Gypsy Danger gives chase. The kaiju hides among the buildings before attacking again. The battle resumes until the kaiju nearly destroys Gypsy Danger and lifts it into the air. Gypsy Danger deploys its sword and slices off the kaiju's wing. High in the atmosphere, Gypsy Danger begins to fall. Raleigh orders Mako to ignite the rocket boosters, sending Gypsy Danger back upward before it finally lands safely. After returning to Shatterdome, everyone congratulates Raleigh and Mako for defeating two kaiju at once. Herc Hansen and Chuck Hansen thank Raleigh for saving their lives. Stacker also looks proud of his adopted daughter, Mako. Shortly afterward, however, Stacker suffers a nosebleed and quietly walks away. At the kaiju carcass site, Hannibal Chow's crew begins harvesting kaiju organs. Newton, who is focused on obtaining a kaiju brain, along with Hannibal and the workers, is shocked when they hear a heartbeat coming from the body.
The kaiju is pregnant and begins to give birth. The newborn kaiju is tangled in the umbilical cord and does not move. Hannibal approaches it and says the baby was born prematurely and will not survive for long. Suddenly, the baby kaiju attacks and devours Hannibal, revealing that it is still alive and killing him instantly. Back at Shatterdome, Stacker explains that he has been exposed to radiation from first-generation Jaegers that were not yet perfected. So far, only he and Raleigh have survived piloting a Jaeger alone. Shortly afterward, Stacker receives a report of a new kaiju emergence near the portal. This is their last chance to carry out the mission to destroy the portal. Stacker prepares Gypsy Danger and Striker Eureka for the final mission. This time, Dr. Herman Gottlieb agrees to help Newton perform a drift into the kaiju brain to find a way to destroy the interdimensional portal. Inside Shatterdome, Chuck Hansen is confused because his father is injured and he does not know who will partner with him to pilot Striker Eureka. Moments later, Stacker appears wearing a pilot suit. He decides to pilot Striker Eureka alongside Chuck. Mako strongly disagrees due to Stacker's health condition, but Stacker remains determined. He tells everyone that this mission is their final one, meant to stop the apocalypse. Chuck, now partnered with Stacker, prepares for the mission. Herc Hansen realizes that this final operation is essentially a suicide mission. With a heavy but resolute heart, he lets his son go. Herc wants the world to know that his son is heading out on a mission meant to stop the apocalypse. Elsewhere, Newton and Gottlieb perform a drift with a kaiju brain. After seeing what is inside its mind, both of them become visibly alarmed and rush to deliver a warning. They explain that the plan to destroy the breach with a bomb is pointless. Meanwhile, Striker Eureka and Gypsy Danger enter the ocean and begin searching for the kaiju dimensional portal to destroy it. Two fast-moving kaiju start stalking Striker. As Striker gets closer to the breach, Newton and Gottlieb appear in the control room and order the operation to stop. According to Newton, even if the portal is open, a bomb cannot pass through it. The breach only allows kaiju with specific DNA to cross. Anything that is not a kaiju will be rejected and thrown back, causing the mission to fail. The only way to get through the breach is to ride a kaiju and enter with it. In the middle of this discussion, the system detects the emergence of a third kaiju of massive size. It is a Category 5 kaiju, the first ever recorded. As expected, the gigantic kaiju appears directly in front of Striker Eureka. Behind it, Gypsy Danger attempts to assist Striker, but is attacked, losing one of its arms in the process. Gypsy manages to stab the kaiju in the head, but the creature escapes. The kaiju then charges back toward Gypsy at high speed, but using its sword, Gypsy Danger slices the kaiju in half and kills it. On the other side, Striker Eureka is helpless and is torn apart by the remaining Category 5 kaiju. The monster continues trying to destroy Striker completely. Gypsy Danger, badly damaged, pushes itself forward with everything it has to reach Striker and help. Inside Striker Eureka, Marshall Stacker and Chuck come up with an idea. They decide to detonate the bomb they are carrying to destroy the two kaiju attacking them. After that, Stacker and Chuck detonate Striker Eureka. The explosion is enormous. Holding on to the kaiju body, Gypsy Danger moves toward the breach. However, the Category 5 kaiju is still alive and blocks their path. Using its last burst of thrust, Gypsy Danger leaps forward, grabs the kaiju, and both of them fall together into the breach. The kaiju coils around Gypsy Danger and damages its oxygen system. Raleigh fires repeatedly until he burns the kaiju wrapped around them. The creature finally dies, allowing Gypsy Danger to enter the breach. Unfortunately, Mako runs out of oxygen and loses consciousness. Raleigh quickly places her into an escape pod and launches her back toward the ocean surface. Raleigh is now alone inside Gypsy Danger. With the systems failing, he must manually activate the nuclear detonator. Gypsy Danger passes through the breach and enters the alien dimension. Raleigh arms the nuclear bomb and rushes into the escape pod. Gypsy Danger then explodes, destroying the breach to the kaiju dimension forever. Moments later, the escape pods carrying Mako and Raleigh resurface. Mako desperately tries to save Raleigh, who is not breathing. She is devastated and panicked, but Raleigh is still alive. They smile at each other in relief. Herc Hansen later takes over Marshall Stacker's position. He officially orders the Doomsday Clock to be shut down. Elsewhere, it is revealed that Hannibal Chow, who was previously eaten by a baby kaiju, is actually still alive.